Good evening. I'm Rachel Maddow in for Keith Olbermann. This is Tuesday, July 15th, 112 days until the 2008 presidential election, when Americans will choose between two leading candidates who have perhaps their starkest differences on the issue of the war in Iraq. Senators Obama and McCain were diametrically opposed on whether the Bush administration should have invaded that country in the first place. They now have opposing positions on how and whether American troops should ultimately leave Iraq. But tonight, Senator McCain appears to be taking a dramatically new position on what some of the brigades now devoted to the Iraq effort should be doing instead. In our fifth story on the countdown, having claimed 4 months ago that, quote, Afghanistan is not in trouble because of our diversion to Iraq, end quote, John McCain has apparently changed his mind. That's not change you can believe in. If the new McCain position on Afghanistan sounds on the surface a lot like the always has been that way Obama position, that's because it is. Meanwhile, during his foreign policy speech in Washington today, Barack Obama reminded voters of the many differences between him and his opponent, including what they believe about both wars, starting with what happens going forward in Iraq.
Thank you very much. Senator McCain would have our troops continue to fight tour after tour of duty, and our taxpayers keep spending $10 billion a month indefinitely. I want Iraqis to take responsibility for their own future and to reach the political accommodation necessary for long-term stability. That is victory. That is success. And that's why I will end this war as president. In fact, as should have been apparent to President Bush and Senator McCain, the central front in the war on terror is not Iraq, and it never was.
Senator Obama added that it is unacceptable that almost 7 years after nearly 3,000 Americans were killed on our soil, the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 are still at large. He reiterated that Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri are still at large and recording messages for their followers. He predicted that if another attack on America comes, it will likely come from the same region where 9/11 was planned. Obama cited that as the reason to make Afghanistan a priority.
Senator McCain said just months ago that Afghanistan is not in trouble because of our diversion to Iraq. I could not disagree more. Our troops and our NATO allies are performing heroically in Afghanistan, but I have argued for years that we lack the resources to finish the job because of our commitment to Iraq. And that is why, as president, I will make the fight against al-Qaeda and the Taliban the top priority that it should be. This is a war we have to win.
Senator Obama called for 2 additional combat brigades to be sent to Afghanistan. John McCain today decided to see Obama's 2 brigades and raise him 1 more.
Our commanders on the ground in Afghanistan say that they need at least 3 additional brigades. Thanks to the success of the surge, these forces are becoming available, and our commanders in Afghanistan must get them.
I guess he doesn't want those 3 brigades to be part of his 100 years in Iraq plan. John McCain today made the case that he, quote, knows how to win wars. The example he gave of a war worth emulating in Afghanistan was the war in Iraq, a famous success. McCain also said today that he'd like to try to find a way to blow a little more bureaucratic insulation into the Afghanistan war effort.
Last year, the Bush administration appointed a war czar responsible for both Iraq and Afghanistan. That was a step in the right direction. But Afghanistan is sufficiently important that a separate Afghanistan czar is needed.
Isn't there already somebody who kind of has that job? The guy who's in charge of all the military stuff and all the wars. It's like the commander in something or other. Commander in... The current commander-in-chief was asked at the White House today if he had any advice for Obama before the Democratic nominee goes to Iraq and Afghanistan.
I would ask him to listen carefully to Ryan Crocker and General Petraeus. There's a temptation to kind of let the politics at home get in the way with the considered judgment of the commanders.
And as for that soundbite we played earlier, the one where Obama said the central front in the war on terror is not Iraq, it never was, and McCain and Bush should have known that, would the president want to respond?
Well, as you know, I'm loath to respond to a particular presidential candidate. And so I will try not to.
Except, Mr. President, you just did.